Hi everyone, it's Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. And today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a few fun ways to use one of our new background stamps. The background stamp that I'm using today is the brand new diagonal stripe. And this is a really fun background stamp. It's made of deeply etched pre-cut rubber. It's already pre-cut around the perimeter and it's mounted on cling cushion. So this is all ready to use on a large acrylic block, and that would be a big acrylic block because this is a 6x6 stamp. Or you can use it on your Misti stamping tool. And if you have a mat like mine, which has a little bit of a shininess to it, you can stick it right onto the mat and use it directly from your mat, which is what I'm going to do today. Well, actually, that's one of the things I'm going to do today. Now I'm going to show you a couple of colors that I'm going to use for these different backgrounds. I'm going to use some blue raspberry. I'm going to use some red velvet, some craft, and some grass green. So the first thing I want to show you is when you get your stamps, these background stamps, they're going to have this liner on the back. Don't throw the liner away, keep it. It's a great way to store your stamp and it really preserves the tackiness of the cling cushion. You can stick these right onto other types of storage devices, but this is the best way to keep that cling cushion clingy. So I just pop mine right back on there and then it's ready to be stored. So to use the stamp though, you are going to want to take this off. And if your stamp looks a little bit curved when you pull it out of the package, once you take the liner off, it will be fine. So this stamp is very flexible. You can put it onto an acrylic block or you can use it with the Misti stamping tool. Now let me show you how you can use it with the tool. So one way that people use it is they will take the cushion out of the Misti. The cushion actually makes up for the difference here in the height of a rubber stamp on cling cushion and a clear stamp. So when you're using a clear stamp, you need that little bit of extra cushion in there to bring the stamp up to the right height or to bring your cardstock up to the right height. With a rubber stamp, you don't need that, so you can remove the cushion. One thing that's really nice is if you do remove the cushion, you can place it underneath the door, and that makes it not so, see when you're inking that up, see how that like kind of presses down? If you put this underneath the door, then it's flat and it's equal with this surface, and that's kind of a nice way to ink up your stamps. So what some people do is they'll put their stamp onto the door and then they'll place their cardstock in the Misti and they'll stamp that way. And that's fine. You can certainly do that. However, with these big stamps, sometimes it's hard to get an entire impression, even when you're using something like the Misti. So I'm going to first show you my very favorite way to use it, which is to actually ink the stamp up. And we'll do that with some red ink here. So I'm going to lay this stamp flat on its back here onto my sticky mat. And this mat is kind of similar to like the cooking mats that you get, and it does actually grab the cling from the stamp. Okay, so then what I would do is I'll take this red velvet ink pad and I'm going to ink the stamp up. Now when you get your stamp, if there's any little white flecks on there, you can just rinse the stamp under water and pat it dry. That's just from the cutting process. It's some of the cling cushion that may have gotten onto your stamp. So there, I've inked that up real well. I actually inked up the whole thing. I probably didn't need to ink that much. And then I have an extra piece of cardstock here. And so I've got that cut out and ready to use. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to lay my stamp down onto, lay my piece of cardstock down onto the stamp. Then I'm going to gently place this piece of cardstock on top, and I'm going to rub my hand all over the surface while I'm holding it down with the other hand. So this is making sure that every single bit of that rubber stamp is making contact with that cardstock. Then once that's done, you can see I've got a lot there. Then you can just use the little corner of the cardstock to lift it. And there, you've got a great impression. That's solid. It's not missing anything in the center. So that's one way to do it. I'm going to put this aside for a second, and I'm going to use my tidy towel to clean it. It makes it really easy with these big background stamps to have something like this to clean your stamps. Try not to use baby wipes just because they can be very linty. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I would use it with the Misti. Now honestly, I have trouble putting it on the door and stamping and trying to get the center, even though the Misti door is very flexible and it allows you to make contact in the center. I do have arthritis, and that makes it a little harder for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put the stamp right here on the Misti like that. My stamp's still a little bit wet, so I'm going to just blot that up. All right, and then I'm going to get another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to place the cardstock down onto my stamp. And then I'm going to take a little bit of purple tape. I'm just going to put that purple tape right in the center there. And then I'm going to pick up the piece of cardstock with the door. So now I have much less pressure to do when I'm only trying to press cardstock down onto the stamp instead of trying to press the stamp down onto the piece of cardstock. So I will ink this stamp up again in that same red ink. And then I will press my cardstock down on that. Now you will get ink on the door of your Misti, so before you go for your next time you stamp, make sure you clean off the door too. But see, that gives me a pretty good impression. Now it's still a little shallow right there, but that's okay because nothing's moved because it's stuck to the door, so I can go back and give it a second coat. Do the same thing again. And now I've got a decent impression there. All right. So again, I'm going to lift the edge here with this piece of cardstock, and then I'll just peel the purple tape off the back. And you can see it doesn't tear the paper. And then that is ready to use on my card project. Now I'm going to clean this off again using my tidy towel. Get the door first. Make sure the door is nice and clean. And then I'm going to dry it. And then I'm going to clean it again with the tidy towel. That is a lot of red ink on there. Okay, but that is all nice and clean. Okay. So now the next one that I want to show you, I'm not going to use the Misti for the next one because my preferred method of stamping these background stamps is to just stick them right on the mat and work that way. So I'm going to make sure I've got everything off of this. Okay, and then I'm just going to rub the, you'll see I'm getting lint on it right away there. Better not do that. Okay, make sure you can blot it up too with the tidy towel. Just make sure that you get all the excess water out of those lines. Okay, so now the next thing that I want to do is I want to use some craft ink. And I'm going to turn the stamp this way into the diamond shape. Because what I want to do with this is I want to stamp vertical stripes, not diagonal stripes. Now I'm going to do this on a smaller piece of cardstock. You can't do this on quite as big of a piece because it will go off the stamp. But this is a smaller piece of cardstock, and when you see the layout on my card, you'll see how nicely this works. So I'm going to ink this up with some craft ink, and I want to get it nice and inky. Re-inked my ink pads, oh gosh, probably since I opened them. And so they're getting ready to be re-inked. But this is a very subtle background design, so I'm happy with the way this is going to look. Okay, and now I'm going to line this up with one of the stripes on the side. Actually going to slip it in like that, and then I'm going to lay it down. And that's going to make sure that I'm straight. So I just slipped the side in, and then I'm going to lay my piece of cardstock on top, and I'm going to rub over the entire surface, holding it down while I do it so that the cardstock doesn't shift underneath. Okay, that should do it. And now I'm going to lift this up, and there are my horizontal stripes. Well, they could be horizontal this way, vertical this way, and diagonal this way. So that's another way to use this background stamp. And I'm going to show you some card samples at the end once I finish up my last fun technique here. So this last technique, I'm going to go back onto the diagonal again, but you certainly can do this the horizontal and vertical way as well. Clean off that dust and lint. Okay. So now what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to start with some blue raspberry. Let's move that up a little bit. And I have another piece of the bigger size cardstock. This cardstock is cut 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. It's a size that I use all the time. I really like that size. I feel like it gives me a nice border around, a nice space for a border around the outside. So I'm going to start this with the blue raspberry, and I'm going to ink up this stamp. Make sure it's nice and inky. Okay, I might have some lint over here, but either way you're going to get the idea. So now I'm going to lay this down on top, and I'm going to put my piece of cardstock down on top of that, and I'm going to rub all over the surface, holding the cardstock down with my opposite hand to make sure nothing shifts. Okay, and then I will pick that up. So there is my blue raspberry design. Now, I'm going to clean that stamp again with the tidy towel. I'm going to get rid of all of that blue, or a lot of it anyway, most of it. Wait a second here. Let me just... I have 2 tidy towels I'm working with, so I don't get too much red all over me. They're very easy to rinse out in between if you're using a lot of bright color. Okay, so all that squeakiness, it's just really showing you it's clean. Okay, so now I have this all done. Now I'm going to take some of the grass green and I'm going to ink it up with grass green. I don't know if you've had a chance to see my daughter Rena's video, but she used the Misti to stamp hers, and she stamped it in 2 different colors and made a 3rd color out of it, and it was just beautiful. She stamped it once, cleaned it, and then added another color, and it turned out really pretty. Okay, so there we go. Got the grass green on there. Now I'm actually going to turn it a 1/4 turn, and I'm going to lay it down, and then I'm going to put the piece of cardstock back on top, and again rub all over the surface. And hopefully I did it the right way. Maybe not. Oh boy. Yes. Ta-da! Now you have a plaid. So that's a green and blue plaid. Isn't that pretty? And that's really fun. You could see lots of great uses for that, whether it's just fun summertime cards where you want that plaid background, almost like a picnic cloth, or you can also use pastel colors and make beautiful baby cards, and it's great for masculine cards. Just an all-around great background for cards. So now I'm going to show you a couple of cards that I made using these different techniques. So for the striped one, or the diagonal striped one, I decided to make a Christmas card because to me, red diagonal stripes just remind me of a candy cane. So I used one of the stamps from last year's Christmas kit, and I believe this is from the Merry and Bright set, and I just made this fun little Christmas card. But I will have all of the information on what these stamp sets are listed below the screen, both at Stamp TV and on YouTube. So that's a fun little card. Then for this one, this vertical stripe, it's just such a nice pinstripe, and it almost feels a little bit masculine. And the soft color I really liked, so I decided to make a Get Well card. And I used one of Teresa's greetings from one of her stamp sets, and again, that will be listed below. And I used, this was from a Christmas set, but it just seems so appropriate. I just stamped those trees right on there with some charcoal brown ink, and then I stamped the greeting in charcoal brown as well. And that's a fun background too. So there's two. And then of course the plaid, which is always fun. It's such a fun look. I decided to make a thank you card, and I used the new Stamp TV kit. I used one of the flowers from the Rose Peony set, and used the thank you greeting from that set as well. And I added a little bit of ribbon onto the side there to make a fun bow. And so that is my third card. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video. Stay tuned to Stamp TV for more background stamp techniques coming up and more videos featuring the new Sunshine and Love Stamp TV kit. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.